Traveling and touring new places can be a beautiful and sweet adventure. But what happens when you get into that place and you cannot communicate with the locals? You are now faced with the responsibility to learn how to speak the native language. You know, a lot of people think that learning new language is a talent, and sometimes people say it's hard, that they can't learn it. But I can tell you that learning a new language can be as easy as anything. But when you go about it the wrong way, it becomes a daunting task. You can download all the language apps, buy all the courses on Coursera, watch all the YouTube videos, scribble all the words you can ever remember, all the local phrases, and even change the language of your phone. But when once it's time for you to hold a meaningful or real-time conversation, everything you've ever jotted or scribbled down or maybe had stored somewhere in your brain completely goes blank. How do you communicate with these locals in their native language? I mean, people who do not understand English or the language that you speak. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I was able to pick about 5 to 6 languages as I moved around different places in Nigeria. Before now, I am an Igbo by origin, by the way, and I grew up in Port Harcourt, which is a southern part of Nigeria. And right there, I was able to pick 2 languages, which are the Efik and some African language. There's a lot of things that I can speak and actually understand in these languages. And for the past 3 years, almost 3 years, I've been in the northern part of Nigeria, and I can tell you that I can hold some simple conversation with the locals in this place. So how am I able to communicate my ideas to these people each time I move into this? How am I able to pick this language is the easiest way? And that is what I'm going to be sharing with you in this video. If this looks like what you want to listen to, then let's get into the video, shall we? The first thing I do when I get into a local place or place where I want to learn their language is to listen. I listen to how they call their words, how they articulate their phrases, okay? How they say Zokachi Abinchi in Hausa, come and eat. Biarieni in Igbo, and Didiampo in Efik. Okay, so I learn how they call their tongues, how they just bring out the words, and I actually want to sound, I want my tone to be like theirs. I don't want to be like Biarieni, okay? I want to sound Biarieni, okay? Didiampo, Didiampo. You see, so I actually listen to hear how the phrases sound, and how they coil the word, how they form, how they bring out the word, and I learn it. I listen, and I try to, embed it into my memory. So that is one thing I do. The second thing you can do, or I do, is learning new phrases, learning the common greetings, learning the words that they commonly use in everyday conversation. For instance, if I get to, as I came here, I learned Zo, I learned Dimi in Efik, I learned Bia in Igbo, okay? So these words are mostly used, and this word means come. Dimi means come here. Bieba means come here. So you learn these words, you learn the words they use every day, learn the numbers at least 1 to 10. At least if before you start, you learn 1 to 10, and from 1 to 10 you can expand over and over as time goes. Okay, so that's another trick I use. I learn simple greetings and common phrases and words that people use, that everybody use in everyday conversation. Another thing I do is, after learning the words, I also learn the phrases. Now we can understand that the word can mean different things when applied to different phrases. I'm actually telling you what I do now. I learn phrases as different from words. So after learning words, simple words, I go ahead to apply it to different sentences and different phrases, and I use it every day. Another thing I do, which is very, very much more important, is practicing every day. Every day I go out, I speak it. I try to communicate with them even though I make mistake. I try to practicalize forming those words I heard them saying. I try to remember and recall, some of those phrases I was able to form. And I discover that as I speak it each time, I become better. I become, more fluent. And so everyday practice and consistent practice actually makes you a better speaker of any language at all. Another thing I do is that I ask questions, because a lot of times, because you actually do not understand, or you are not an original owner of that language, you are bound to make some mistakes. Sometimes you might even be, saying some bad things to someone, and you may not know, maybe the way you called it, you see. And if you ask someone, "Oh, what does this mean?" they can easily tell you, and that is, at that point, you actually need an interpreter, maybe a friend that understands English or whatever language that you understand, and that's language. So sometimes an interpreter can be very, very important. Having an interpreter as a friend who is also an owner or someone who understands the local language. So you learn to ask questions when you get confused, when you learn a new word, or when you are trying to just fix it somewhere in your brain. You ask questions. That is what I do a lot of times. I ask a lot of questions. What does this mean? I hear this person saying this. What does it mean? Okay. Another thing which is also very important is making friends with the locals, either with your neighbor. If it is a new environment you moved into, you make friends with your neighbor, your colleagues, your anybody, co-worker, anybody at all. So you make friends with people who speak that language, and you try to speak. Just try to speak every time. Try to speak every time. Go out and speak, and make friends with them, ask them questions. I also encourage them to speak those languages to me, even if I don't understand. I urge them to speak those words, those languages to me. Whenever I want to see anything, just speak your language to me. If I don't understand, I ask you questions. So I urge people to speak it to me, and I try to respond to them the best I can. Yes, and when I make mistake, I ask them, "Oh, please, can you correct me? How do I say it?" Okay, that's what I mean by practicing. You don't just sit in that your comfortable language. You don't just, stay there. You learn to go out, because it's something you want to do. So you have to ask them to speak it to you. You have to beg them. Sometimes, literally, you have to just, "Oh, please, can you be speaking your language to me? I want to be grabbing some things." So that is one thing you can do. That's what I do. In months, you will learn how to speak fluently if you do not break your speaking, your consistent everyday speaking. I promise. So these are mostly what I do to learn new languages, and not by memorizing some huge vocabularies and scribbling and all. I speak it with all the mistakes. I speak it, I relearn, and then correct myself, ask questions, and before you know it, you're good. So in summaries, language is not actually learned by the smartest or most brilliant people, but the people who are consistent in their listening, their practice, their questioning, their inquisitiveness, and their speaking, literally. So speaking is very important. You don't write and go and sleep. You have to keep saying it. You have to keep transcribing it in your head. That is how you learn, and it becomes a lot easier. And once you open up your mind, you open up your heart to accepting any language, I promise you, these steps becomes a walk away. In fact, it becomes so fun. You can just build some fun around it, and before you know it, you are good. And if you've watched this video up until this time, I think it's time for me to do this. Hello everyone, my name is Blessing and this is Niger Tribe. Thank you, my old subscribers, for always coming around. Thank you for your support. I love you so much and I love to share this space with you. If you're coming across this channel for the first time, you are welcome. Please do go to subscribe so that you can get notified each time we put out a new video. Let me know in the comment section of a point you think I missed that you apply to learn a new language faster. I want to read and connect with you better from the comments. Also do well to give me a thumbs up so that this video can be moving on to the more permanent side. Okay, share this video to your timeline so that someone who is struggling to learn a new local language can find it easier. Okay, and if you've just done that, I guess this is where we draw the curtain for today. I hope to come your way again soon, but until then, please do well to take absolute care of yourself, and bye.